Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Courage Talks. Special guest today is Deepak Raj, fairly familiar name in the endurance sports industry in India. He's the man responsible for getting the IRONMAN brand to India. And as if that was not enough, he's got the other big brand called HYROX into India. And the buzz is in town about the next HYROX happening very soon in Delhi. Welcome, Deepak.
Thank you, Atal. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and the platform.
Thanks a lot. So the platform is Courage Talks, and the story behind Courage Talks is my book Against All Odds, which is my dad's biography. And when I was writing about my dad, I realized there were multiple instances of courage in his daily life. And I thought courage is kind of underwhelming and not talked about as often as it should be. And I thought I should explore courage in other people's lives. So that's how the podcast originated. What's your definition of courage? What strikes you when you hear about courage for the first time?
I think I associate that word courage. Everybody has some keywords which they use. Maybe it's in a race, maybe it's during tough times and things. Courage and believe and achieve, those three sort of words are always there. So it's very apt that you mentioned the word courage. I think the word courage primarily looks at, obviously, dreaming big, but at the same time breaking it down into smaller milestones, and then telling yourself that it takes courage to write a big goal. It also takes courage to go after a big goal. But if you break it up and things like that, suddenly things start falling in place. That's the way I look at it, be it whether I'm racing or in my previous professional work of corporate life or now being an entrepreneur. That word definitely comes across multiple times in a day sometimes, but also in other cases through some key things you're pursuing.
So with 28 plus Ironmans and counting, I'm sure you're a role model for a lot of people, but who's your role model for courage?
I think my dad always comes into mind, dad and mom for that matter, with respect to, I've seen them, what they have gone through with respect to, I would like to say middle class, but we all know that middle class is a very big bucket. There are ranges even in a middle class. But I think what they have gone through as two working people to sort of, give me a lot of things. So that's taught me a lot of things in life. And in terms of life lessons, they haven't had to point it out, but I think as I grew older is when I was able to go back and say, oh yeah, it doesn't make when you're 6 or 8 and things, you're just craving for things and all that and things, right?
Yeah.
So going back, definitely parents as a role model. I think on the non sort of family wise and things, I think there is my sporting idol has always been Michael Jordan. I've been a big basketball fan. So I think that stands out. But before I go to that part, from a family perspective, I think parents puts through. I quit corporate after 14 years. My wife had the courage to do it after 7 years. And, so she's been a rock all the way through. So as much as sort of talking about one single role model, sometimes it is someone very close to you who's there and put through. So she wanted to do something on her own, and she's been a successful consultant and running her own company and just doing what she wants. So that always stands back, and she's been supporting me end to end. But in a non sort of this way, I think Michael Jordan, in terms of what he achieved and how hard he worked and going after lofty goals and putting through, maybe the word courage is maybe not associated, but if you really look through how hard people had to work through to sort of step up in their respective careers and achieve those things, that's something which really stands out for me.
Yeah, that brings to my mind this term that I tend to use called slow courage, right? It's not an instant, it's not a moment, it's not an incident where you say, oh, he had courage. But to sustain a certain activity over a long period of time, continue to resist temptations to give up, continue to resist the temptation to take up other avenues or other challenges which are more enticing or more exciting. I think that is a very different and more difficult form of courage, which makes you more resolute. A lot of people know you as today as someone who's got two big brands and someone who took that bold decision to give up corporate career after 14 years. But we might not know about your childhood. So why don't you take us down memory lane? Where did you grow up? What was growing up like? Any interesting incidents from your childhood which remain with you, which might be interesting for us to hear?
Born, brought up in Bangalore. I think primarily stayed, in the home I'm currently speaking. I think we've been here for the last maybe 40 plus years.
Awesome.
So primarily Bangalore, born and brought up in Bangalore. Went to, the schooling and the plus two I think pretty much sort of shaped a few things. I think every stage sort of shapes you in a few things. I mean, out here in Bangalore, went to Joseph's, 3 years of high school, 2 years of Joseph's, plus 2 college. I think the focus on sort of all-round development, be it quizzing or other things, always
Yeah.
caught my attention. When it comes to sport, yes, I did dabble a bit with cricket and basketball in high school. But yeah, I think I made the B team in our high school, and our school had very good sports facilities and things. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't call myself too athletic or fit or anything. But sort of that was the foundation where the love for sports was always there in terms of watching. So I think I
Yeah.
used to watch a lot of TV, be it early on, maybe it was tennis and cricket and whatever little Olympics and things we would get way
Yeah.
back. But outside of that, I think interest in watching a lot of sports and drawing inspiration from people who have sort of worked hard to achieve their dreams. I think that was very consistently there in my childhood. I don't think even I realized it that those stories will I'll go back to those stories at a different point in life. At that time it was just inspiration and then watch sport and move on types.
Right.
That's pretty much what it was. And then got into, I mean, just like any other Bangalore person, maybe does his mechanical engineering and then gets into IT and
Mhm.
got into Infosys. So sort of that's sort of how it sort of navigated through.
Very interesting. How did endurance sports happen for you? I'll be honest, I got to know about Ironman from Abhishek Mishra and Milind Soman because, I was in Gurgaon and, they were the first names to hear as far as Ironman is concerned. What is your first memory or recollect of Ironman?
I think I saw Ant-Man on TV on ESPN
Oh,
somewhere
okay.
in 2006. By then, I'd just done a bit of marathon running and I'd taken up running to sort of lose weight. And sort of that's how the whole journey started.
Got
But
it.
when it comes to Ironman, I just saw it on ESPN and I had tried to do a couple of mini sprint triathlons. I think 400-meter swims in swimming pools, and I had struggled. So I sort of stayed back to running and saying, okay, running is all right. So I was doing
Yeah.
a few marathons. But the first time I really saw something called Ironman was on ESPN, and that's when I realized that was my first sort of intro into Ironman.
Interesting. That makes sense. So, of course, having had a 14-year career in the IT industry, it takes a lot to get out of it, right? And you did mention about your wife doing it before you. But what was that pivotal incident or moment that prompted you to shift gears and get into entrepreneurship?
I think two things. One was my sort of body was breaking down because I was spending long hours obviously at work, which was going really well, and then I wanted to go under 11 hours for my Ironman triathlon. I've been trying it for, I think I'd had three failed attempts, four, but three of them by a minute and a half or a few seconds and things like that, right?
Oh,
So I remember 11 hours and 1 minute something, 11 hours and 50 seconds, 11 hours and 29 seconds, that close. But that's how fit I was, or that's where I was. It's not like I was at 10:45 and I just did not execute it well. And
Hmm.
also, amount of sleep, things were not in the best of shape. So there was one part of the fact that my body was not sort of where it was, and I had sort of plateaued from what I wanted to achieve.
Yep.
But the second thing was family. My son was 3 years old, in terms of just less than 3 years old, and I wasn't necessarily spending enough time early morning trainings, long hours at work. By the time I come back, he would actually be in bed. So there were even days where I wasn't seeing. So that did not sit well with me. That I mean, it sounds cliche or sort of things, but he's going to be three only at that time, right? He's going to be three only for a moment. He's going to be 2.5 only at that time. So primarily, I remember after one of those races where once again I'd come very close to hitting 11 hours, but things were not where it was. And looking at it to say there is work at Infosys, which was going great. And then there is triathlon and a passion to get better and do something and help people types.
Yeah.
And the third was family. And there was room only for two out of those three, right? That was pretty much the pivotal moment. There are three
Yeah.
things which is taking all the time in my life and attention and effort. I have room only for two. One had to go, and obviously that was work. And I wanted to make triathlon my work.
Hmm.
And there was always that intent of showcasing Ironman to Indians, saying, hey, look, it helped me change my lifestyle, how I look at things, how I pursue things. And, not just on the physical part of lifestyle. It obviously
Hmm.
helped change my lifestyle. But more importantly, it also helped feel that others could be equally inspired by this. and an opportunity for India to experience Ironman. So that's when I decided to quit Infosys and take up triathlon, sort of, train people, start talking to Ironman, see what does it take to get it to India and things like that. So that's how that whole journey started. And that was the pivotal moment that three things taking up attention, time, and effort in my life. There's room only for two. One had to go.
Very interesting. And you had a phenomenal weight loss journey yourself as well. I don't know how many people actually know about it. You want to talk us through
Very
that?
old. I think the story is dated, lost its statutory period of usage and things. But yeah, I used to be 1995, maybe 100. So yeah, definitely. And that's when I started taking up running way back in 2001, 2002 types.
Right.
And that sort of, but I lost a few kilos like everybody does when they take up running, but it sort of went up a bit, came down and things, but it never really stabilized until I started to eat right and have a more consistent fitness routine than do one or two. I mean, trying to do even one or two marathons or even run regularly still wasn't cutting it for me because the food part was not being well taken care of. But then after triathlon part, I think it stabilized a lot more and eating right and taking care of myself. So yeah, it took a long time, but it has reached a good stage now.
What's the story behind the name YOSKA?
YOSKA is a combination of two Sanskrit words, Yos and Ka. So Yos means happy or healthy. Ka means body or soul. So there's sort of dual meanings in some Sanskrit, and there's a play on words.
Yeah.
And our vision is healthy body, happy soul. And my expertise lies in endurance fitness. So that was my thing of saying we're going to train people, we're going to build our own app-based platform. We're going to get endurance brands or events, globally renowned ones, and give India an opportunity to experience it right in their own backyard.
So getting the Ironman brand, I'm sure would not have been easy. I'm sure there is a lot of behind the scenes stories about slam doors, phone calls not being picked, emails not being responded to. And I'm sure you would have had that moment. There's a famous line which I quote, you move the world for someone and someone comes and moves you, right? I mean, you all this and then you realize that the local authorities are just not collaborating enough to let you, and they'll be like, who's Iron Man? What's Iron Man? We don't care about Iron Man. Tell us some of those hard moments, some of those tough stories that remain with you, which kind of inspire you to say, boss, I'm not going to give in.
I think in terms of phone calls and sort of rebuttals or no support, I think it was less to do with that. I think from an Ironman perspective, they took a long time for the discussions to become serious, and for the right reasons. I was just one guy doing Ironman and walking over to them and saying, have you thought about India? Literally, that's all. That's how conversations start. And I remember still Jeff Meyer, he was the APAC MD and CEO, and every time I used to do Ironman, whether it was in Australia, New Zealand, or that's where he was based out of Brisbane and close to Brisbane in Australia. I would go and talk and then understand. Then it had reached a point where in 2013, 2014, I had quit my job and I started to do camps and clinics across India just to get a few more people into it. And then there were also already quite a few small little local triathlons happening. There were a few other people already into triathlon and things. So slowly, steadily, there were more people traveling and doing these events. So that built a period, and Ironman was always, they put a lot of trust and faith really early on. It took a number of years, 2013 to 2019, when the actual race happened. But I don't think they at any point shunned me or looked at that. I think they were extremely supportive, but obviously they wanted to see proof of a lot of things, whether India is ready, people are ready and things. And that's where talking to governments, understanding whether roads can be closed, whether these beaches are safe, whether the quality of the water body is good. So those were the challenges. I don't see anywhere where I think the governments also took a while to understand what does that really mean, right? They were okay to say, yeah, we can do an event and things. But when you then lay it down to say roads completely closed, both sides of the road in some cases and things, that's when there was resistance and we had to find alternates and things. And then brands also took a little more time to put the money in. Right? So there were brands who are very skeptical that can an event of this stature of in terms of execution, closures, all that happen in the center of the city, so as to speak, even if it was Goa and things. So I think all those took time. And along the way, obviously a lot of people stepping in to help the greater cause, like you said, once you start moving and putting the effort, a lot of energy you get from a bunch of people around you. But yeah, I think, yes, were there challenges even in executing the first one, right through from having enough money to do the event to multiple other things, which happens all the way until the race not able to start on time versus lots of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of behind the scenes things which went in, but eventually we started and now it's an annual event.
Right. Is there a minimum number of athletes you need to be sure of locally for an Ironman to be conducted?
There's no minimum. I think it's just the economics part of it, right? So how many is good? How many will make government feel that it's a race? How many will brands feel like? So there's no number or a threshold. But
Mhm.
if you just have 200 people, then the question comes: am I making enough money from registrations? Are brands interested enough? Is government going to come back next year? So I was
Yeah.
shooting for 1,000 as a first event, and we actually capped it at 1,000 to say let's get 1,000 and execute it well
Yeah.
before we start thinking about any other things which we can do. So that's where we started with. But otherwise, I would say 500 to 600 is a good debut.
Okay.
When it comes to debut events in a new region where the sport is new,
Yeah.
right? So that way, 1,000 was a great start for us, and we've only gone stronger from then.
Very interesting. You've been a multi-time Ironman yourself, and then you coached other athletes to take them for their Ironman journey. Tell me, what is more difficult, to train for the Ironman yourself or to coach someone else to go to and touch the finish line?
I would say getting someone across the line. I mean, if you're talking about just one person, yes, but if you're running a larger coaching business and there are a number of people with very different personalities, different cycle or the trajectory of where their fitness is versus what buttons do you push for
Yeah.
different people. It's just not about giving swim, cycle, run training, right? Those challenges are very
Yeah.
different. After having done a few sort of my end individually training for it, yeah, that is something which sort of goes into a bit of a good, as long as you're consistent, you'll be ready and things. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not one is harder than the other. Both of them give you different joys, right? One for your own execution and finishing to get finish line. The second is the joy of seeing someone finish across. And yes, in some
Yeah.
cases they did the times they want, and obviously they'll be in very different emotional state after the race, right? So different things. Both of them are challenging. Both of them bring you joy. Can't pick one over the other, unfortunately.
Yeah. And courage is not always about achieving what you set out to do, right? Courage is also handling failure, handling those down moments when you did not achieve what you wanted to. Would you want to narrate a particular instance or incident where, even though you failed, you learned a lot from that? And what were the feelings going on like? What were the circumstances?
Well, I think way back in my running career, my first marathon, 2002, Berlin, I was just had to finish it. So I finished it, and the secondary goal was maybe under 5 hours. So I think I did 4:57, which was great. And immediately I wrote my goals sub 4, right?
Yeah.
And then I trained and then I failed twice. So yeah, I think teaches you a lot to say, well, I went too hard too early, didn't train properly, was inconsistent, multiple reasons. This
Yeah.
is way back in 2003 when I was just reading books, talking to fellow people. This was in Germany, talking to others who have ran and looked at it, right? So definitely failure teaches you a lot of things where, yeah, just need to be more patient and more meticulous in preparation and things. So
Yeah.
that definitely. Same as I was telling you in the earlier part of the session podcast where there were about three or four attempts at trying to go under 11 hours, and that again I did not achieve that part. So multiple times, but there are also times where you need to, like, I can remember last year pulling out of a race. I felt that took a lot more, I don't want to say courage or whatever, but I think just a matter of differentiating between, is it just a low point where you're mentally low and you just have to pick yourself up and prep yourself up and
Yeah.
tell you to talk yourself into, yeah, I think you'll be fine, keep going, or no, the body is not right and things, right?
Yeah.
So there are times where sometimes when it's not like you had courage and you battled it and finished a race. I think sometimes it also takes courage to say, you know what, doesn't seem right and things, it's all right to walk away. Those are moments. I mean, there are a lot of low points in life and in triathlon and in my races, but as my mentor always used to tell me, how long do you stay low, right? You can snap out of it. You have to snap out of it. The quicker
Yeah.
you snap out of it, it is. If you
Yeah.
dwell too much, before you know, you'll be wondering, where did the 23rd kilometer go? Why is my pace at 6:30 when I was trying to find something else? See,
Yeah.
you realize fade out, right? So
Yeah.
I think low moments are fine. Everybody has low moments. I think the
Yeah.
difference between people is how quickly do people snap out of it and just get their mind back onto the job.
I think I recollect seeing that long post of yours after the failure last year. And tell me, having reached the stage where is the social aspect of failure more prevalent on your mind when you not able to finish the race, or it's purely personal? It's purely the man in the mirror that you have to face.
Oh, absolutely nothing to do with social or others. It's about taking care of myself and my family, being comfortable with it,
Huh.
right? They
Yeah.
are doing so much sacrifice for me to able to train things. So
Yeah.
I think in general and me, it's an extreme sport. I mean, I'm not talking about trying to jump off things, and it's not about bungee jumping or for that matter, jumping off airplanes and skydiving. But in general, you're putting your body through a lot. That's all I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Not trying to
Yeah.
compare the daring nature of other sports. It's about listening to your body and what it is. If people out there are trying to force themselves to finish a race and run through because of what the society will tell or their friends or anybody will tell, I wouldn't care less, to be honest. The people who really care about you will understand. And if the others don't understand, who cares about them? Because they don't get you.
That's a automatic filter anyway, right?
It is. It's an absolutely so at any point, nothing to do with racing or how you put across, how you come across, and how you operate or whatever it is.
So a lot of people in your place, Deepak, would have been happy to have got to do what you did as far as the IRONMAN brand is concerned. But you decided to not rest and you got another brand in called HYROX. Tell us, how did the HYROX journey happen? Why HYROX? Why is it so important to you?
I think it was very incidental. I had just come back from my Ironman World Champs, and Saurabh, a dear friend, and I know from a very long time. I trained him a year or two for his races, after which he successfully created Fitzo and things. This is Saurabh Agarwal, and
Yeah.
he called me and he said, I'm doing this HYROX Munich, I think. HYROX Munich. You should come and you should read about it, and you should come for a training session. So I went for a workout with him and loved the workout. That's when I read a bit more. He said you should read about it, and it's a nice sport. It's thing. So yeah, post that did a lot of reading, and I think maybe 2 days after that or 3 days after that, after quite a bit of research, understanding, looking at sort of where sort of that sport was heading, where sort of India was and things, I definitely saw that there is an opportunity here, both as a business opportunity and to fill a gap of the gyms not having a race, the gym going community.
Yeah.
Having a sport. Gymming or gym, if that's a word like that, gymming or gym fitness is a sport, right? People say, what's your sport? What's your thing? What do you do to stay fit? I go to the gym. People say I go for a run.
Yeah.
People who go for a run have a race. People who go to a gym don't have a race. Yeah. So that gap was there. So primarily it all started with a cold email writing to info@hyrox.com saying, hey, I'm Deepak. I do this. I'm keen. Where are you in your India thing? Pretty much the same approach of the Ironman, where in the Ironman it was almost like walking over and saying, hey man, what's happening? Are you thinking about India? Right? That's how the whole conversation started, which then developed into a series of business pitches, documentation, India-wide research, analysis, scouting, infrastructure, monies, and eventually slowly progressed towards a good conversation with their top management. Eventually, them choosing YOSKA to be their go-to partner, and HYROX is something which I feel very excited about. I think very bullish on where the sport can head, what it has already done for not just the gym community. I think in general, the general fitness people, runners who are looking for another challenge, triathletes who are looking to fill their schedule and calendar if they want a race in between. There are
Yeah.
lots of ways to look at it. And the pure business element to being able to execute that indoor in metro cities is a huge business opportunity which brands are looking for, that TG,
Right.
which we are going after. So
Yeah.
it was something which I felt I have to really go hard and try to secure that. And it has worked out quite well for us for now.
Between the two, which community do you think is more likely to grow much faster? Between
HYROX.
IRONMAN and HYROX?
HYROX. No doubt
And
about it.
in terms of the competition involved, in terms of organizing the events, do you think the gym infrastructure in the country is already ready to be able to accommodate HYROX aspirants, or do you think there's going to be a tectonic shift happening there as well?
Not necessarily a tectonic shift, but our gym's going to get a little more upgraded. Yes. Our gym trainer is going to be a little more aware of the sport. Yes. Are people going to be challenging themselves and the trainers and the whole training methodology a lot more? Yes, that's the whole goal. Will the gym goers start running instead of calling it cardio? Yes, right. This one definitely. I want India to start calling running. Most runners call it running. Gym people, some of them still call it cardio. Maybe let's say in 2 years' time there will be a lot more gym goers calling running as running. So that's the shift I see. I don't see suddenly gyms not equipped enough to train. Right? I mean, where I live, there's a gym about 200 meters from me. It has a sled. They didn't add a sled after HYROX came into India. They always had a sled. Do they have a rowing machine? No. Right? As I'm telling you, is small little equipment changes people will have. But you don't need to have all of this every day to train for HYROX. The movements which come with HYROX are pull, push, lift, lunge, squat, carry, things like that, which we are all being used to in our daily life. And there are movements in the gym which can mimic that, even if you don't have the equipment, right? The first time I ever tried a ski erg machine, lots of people, the first time they ever try a ski erg machine could be in a race and they'll be fine. Do they have the perfect form? No. Will there be a few seconds here and there off? Maybe. But it's all doable. So I think it is going to rally up the gym community a lot more. It will have gyms thinking about what can I do to attract the right people who are thinking about HYROX. But I don't think currently, fact that we have 2,500 plus people doing daily, which is a week from now. It tells you that there are enough gyms and there are enough facilities around.
And maybe there could be a collaboration piece as well, right? So smaller gyms could collaborate together to make sure that they are net accommodating all the necessary requirements for a HYROX participant, and maybe that could be a way to look at it.
Could be, but all said and done, that sounds very nice in an ideal world. People are gyms. They want their business, and I don't. So I think they'll be more likely to, they're more likely going to add one or two equipment if necessary, or if they were about to upgrade, they would think about it and things like that. Or there will be another gym, a boutique gyms or fitness studios and all those which are now getting a lot more popular and looked after.
Where does injury come among all this, right? I think so. I'm going to ask you two questions, right? The first one is around this news which has been publicized a lot about cult creating more injuries rather than creating more fit people, and because of the misaligned approach which it takes to fitness or whatever it might be. And the second aspect is injuries, of course, are very much relevant both in triathlons as well as in HYROX. So where do you see the aspect of injury and how do you address that?
I think sport always, will be borderline in some cases. Fatigue creeps in and one fine day will get injured as opposed to just falling off from a bike and getting injured, right? So you're more likely to get injured, I would say, in lots of other ways of when you don't take care of yourself and things. And that always is the case, be it running or team sport, any sport you play, or even HYROX. I think when it comes to HYROX, I think it actually exposes your gaps, be it mobility, flexibility, movements. There are movement standards. If you can't do that, then you're going to work harder on it. So actually, I think it rounds up your gaps, if at all you have any, when it comes to your body. It amplifies whatever little gaps were present. Yes, were you always able to do a lunge? Yeah. But when you ask you to do a lunges of that nature, that's when you realize how bad. I mean, I'm a great example of, I'm terrible at lunges still, even after doing a few HYROX for whatever reason, right? I'm okay with a few other ones, but in lunges, I still struggle. So there is something there, and that drives me to work harder on that, right? So because of that, am I getting injured? Unlikely. Because of that, is my body rounding up and getting better, and it helps me to prevent injuries when I do cycling, swimming, running, or anything generally? I would say yes. Because all of these 8 movements or 8 stations, what we have in HYROX, which define different movements, are actually making me better. So I would say yes, but any sport or any fitness activity you do, if you go hard too early, or if you don't take care of form, or you don't take the right structure or advice or guidance, you are going to get injured. I think that doesn't go away. It just depends on how people treat it. But endurance fitness, most of the times, it's a lot of slow, consistent workouts, right? So when it comes to long distance endurance races or HYROX and things, as long as you take care of yourself, you'll be fine. Please pay attention to form, structure, and pacing yourself.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a trick question, okay? With the increase of the HYROX movement, do you see more people going to the gym, or do you see more gym goers getting injured?
I don't think the gym goers will get injured, at least. But yeah, look, I think the number of people now going to the gym, comparing notes. What are the things? The way I see it is, when someone goes to the gym, what would they compare last week's workout to this week's workout? Or when you're with somebody else, you're doing it. Hey, how much do you bench press? How much do I bench press?
Yeah,
Or what do you squat and deadlift and things like that, right? Those were the only stats people were comparing.
yeah,
Now we're giving stats to say, hey, what was your sled push last event? Okay, what was your overall HYROX time last event? Oh yeah, I sled push was there, but oh yeah, I beat you in lunges, but yeah, sled push you beat me. But look at that types, right? So then suddenly, oh yeah, I need to work on this and things. So what I'm saying is, I think that
yeah,
whole community is now getting something a lot more than going and saying, well, today is chest and triceps, tomorrow is back and biceps, today is leg day. Now,
yeah.
I think people are completely shifting how they're training. They're going to be looking forward to hitting the gym more. At least the people who are into HYROX, or at least who are aspiring to do HYROX, or the fact that someone else is doing HYROX and it's getting them going over there. I definitely see that happening a lot more. But I definitely want not just all the viewers, but everybody else there, whether it's HYROX or Ironman or running or whatever you do in team sport, just take care of yourself and get some good advice, and don't try to push too hard too early in anything to avoid injuries.
So, I mean, if you traverse the growth of running in India, you traverse the growth of triathlons, and maybe I'll just say Ironman in India versus the growth of, let's say, HYROX. Do you think the growth of HYROX will be proportionately much faster because now we have an established base of runners and triathletes who have already come and created a big noise about importance of fitness and endurance sports, and of course the parallel movement that relatively speaking Indians are doing much better globally in sports. We're doing relatively much better in Olympics. I won't touch cricket right now. It can be a dicey topic, but do you think that's a great platform, and that's what we probably are trying to tap when you're going aggressive on increasing the pace at which HYROX is coming into India?
Absolutely. I think runners don't want a different sport, but they also want to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And HYROX is half of it is running. In the other 8 stations, a lot of those workstations, be it skier, rowing, burpees, are actually very aerobic in nature, right? They might not be running, but it's going to test your aerobic skills
Yeah.
and conditioning. So it's a very good transition point for runners. For gym
Mm.
goers who are going into gym and occasionally doing a bit of running or cardios and cycling 10 minutes, 30 minutes on running, I think it's a good intersection point for pure runners and pure gym goers. Okay. That's
Mhm.
the way I see the sport. And are there more people going to the gym than running? Yes. So you do the math. There are more
Mm.
people who go to the gym than people who run, right? And I'm going after HYROX. And when it comes to HYROX, to add it to that, the runners are also positioned. So purely from a business perspective, or from a growth perspective, or from what India will be looking like in a few years, yes, Ironman and triathlon is growing, but it's a steady growth because there are a lot of entry barriers in terms of swimming, cost of the sport, cycling, outdoors, lots of things. When it
Yeah.
comes to HYROX, as long as you can run, have access to a gym occasionally, you'll be fine. And
Mm.
it's an indoor sport, which means I can do that rain, sunshine, hail, whatever it may be, right? And I
Yeah.
can do it in any weather. It's a fully AC environment and it's indoor, right? What
Mm.
more do we ask for? And the government related road closures and things are not a factor. So even though the government has been
For a
super,
change, you can take a break.
I still take my permissions. And again, the government has been supportive, just that it takes a lot more than government permissions to do triathlon. Let me put it that way. It is not because of government resistance. There are so many factors which go into doing a race. The
Ask the people
government in all states,
who have had jellyfish bites in Goa. They'll tell you.
yeah, there are a lot of states actually reaching out to us and to do Ironman triathlons and things. So that way there is a lot of support, but we need a few more things need to fall in place before we can do the race. Coming
Yeah.
back to answer your question, yep, I think running took us a number of years to reach where it is, and it's only going to grow.
Yeah.
But take an example, HYROX first race was in 2017 and they lost 2 years into COVID. So it's pretty much a 6-year sport. And there are 84 races which happened last season.
Wow.
We will have 3 races this year. in the calendar year itself. So lots happening.
So is the number of participants in HYROX limited because of the fact that it's a closed indoor event?
It's not limited. Per day, I can get X amount. If it increases, I just make it a 2-day event.
Okay, got it.
Yes, per day there is a limit.
Yeah.
But when it increases, it's a 2-day event.
Got it. As a race director, as an event director, I'm sure there are a lot of things that you go through which the public never realizes, right? It's easier for someone to make a statement and say, oh, the nutrition was not enough, oh, this was not done, the chief guest came in late, and so on and so forth. How do you retain a cool head in situations like this? What's your mantra for staying calm?
I think you control what you control. That's all it is. And you stay within your 1 square meters. What you can control is usually within that 1 square meters. A lot of things outside you can't. And you can make a list of them. What you can, you do. The rest, yeah. You can send positive vibes, you can pray to your respective gods. But really speaking, I don't spend energy on anything which I can't control. Yes. And on record, for Ironman, the chief guest has never come late. I remember in 22 or 23, one of the participants in my athlete briefing asked me, will there still be ministers coming to the start off and will the race start on time? So there were two instances in 2019 and 22 where the race did not start on time. And it was nothing to do with the CM coming there late. It was actually, I told them very clearly, those were my exact words. The race not starting on time is on me, not on the CM. I actually made him wait because we had not secured the roads closed, safe to start the race. So there are these perceptions with people that we started the race late because he came late. No, that's not definitely the case. So once again, a lot goes in to put up the sport until the roads are fully secure and there is no live traffic inside my bike course and run course. I can't put people in the water as an example, right? So there's a lot which goes in. We get access to roads at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? After which we have to basically secure the entire bike course. You can prepare a lot, but you still have to execute from 3 a.m. You don't get anything before that. There's live traffic and putting aid stations out there and things. And we use 4 or 5 tons of ice to make sure everybody gets cold access to aid stations. Even a last of a person, I think that's something we've been extremely proud and the team's done a terrific job every year is every person, whether he finishes in 4 hours and 22 minutes as a winner or 8 hours and 42 minutes as the last participant, will get access to everything when it comes to that, right? So it takes a lot to get there. And every year, yes, there have been learnings and things which constantly we do. The experience, the safety, and the global standards have always been met. Just because it's happening in India, there's not going to be a different standard to safety or experience or anything else. But yeah, there will be people who will not be happy with some things. We do our best. And I think most times our customer survey results have always been better than the last 2 years. I can tell you it's been better than even global averages. So globally, there are like hundreds of races happening. We are able to surpass them. I think we're doing well.
A big element of courage is taking risk. You want to call out a couple of biggest risks that you've taken in your life?
I think financially, there's a fair amount of risk getting into chasing Ironman, signing on the dotted line, hoping brands will come, hoping sport will grow, hoping government monies will come. So I think that's a fair amount of risk, and it didn't happen in year one, didn't happen as necessary in year two, but over the period it's happened. I think those are risks, and even going after that it's okay to have a passion and things, but it also needs to be a calculated risk to make sure that it will come good at some point. So there were quite a few bets placed when it comes to the Ant-Man as a business. In case of HYROX, I wouldn't call it a risk, but I had to place a few bets because it's infrastructurally different and the kind of monies and things needed was different, and where I was or where we were in YOSKA and personally our finances and my finances of what it will take versus ability to raise funds and how much of my funds may have to put in. So those were some risks, I would say, but I was very clear that HYROX is something which will work. Yes, early days, but I like where we are. It had success in multiple countries, so I did not see it as a risk, even though financially there were a lot of things we had to do. But primarily, I did not see that as a risk. I saw that as an absolute thing. I can't say it's a no-brainer because it's a lot of things need to come together. I can't just say it's in, but if you were playing poker, it's all chips in. All right, I'm going to go
Yeah.
after this with all things. But yeah, it's early days. We'll see how much those bets pay off.
Yeah.
But I like where I am.
Very interesting. The other aspect which comes to my mind is being emotional, right? And unfortunately, the country we are in, men expressing emotions is supposed to be like a strict no-no, right? It's like mard ko dar nahi hota hai types, right? For me, there have been quite a few emotional moments of late, especially if I remember, I did a trial half iron during my Ironman training way back in 22. And it was around 11 o'clock. I had finished my swim and bike and I was midway in my run. And I just stopped in the middle of the street. It was around 11:15. And it suddenly struck me that something was wrong. I was like, what am I doing? And I was just crying. I was like shedding tears like hell. Because as you know, right, endurance sport, despite whatever you achieve at the end, it's a extremely lonely sport, right?
Yeah.
Only you know what's going on between your two ears, right? Any instance where you turned emotional, where you could not hold back your feelings?
I think in a race, I think qualifying to Kona, I realized, I think, happy tears, nothing there,
Of
but
course, yeah.
that was one of them. There have been a few other times where it's not about me as racing, but there was some very, very tough times where I mean, the first race in Goa, even on race day morning, the race will happen, not happen. There were some things I remember pretty much breaking down. I remember speaking to my wife and things where I think that was a extremely low moment. Anyway, I had to again to take a few so-called slow courage, mini risks, whatever you want to call it, on that day. I
Yeah.
don't think it's a small risk. I think it was a big one, but the race happened, right? There's a different story I would have said if the race hadn't happened on 20th October 2019. But in terms of racing, I think failing to get under 11 hours, missing out by like 29 seconds, 50 seconds, and a minute and 30 and things, those were some low points. But I also knew that's how fit I was. Yes, 29 seconds. I mean, you can tie your shoelaces faster and you could have made that time.
That's
You
a
could
good
have,
one. Yeah.
right? But go at
Did
that
you
point.
stop to tie your shoelace, by the way?
Sorry?
Did you stop to tie your shoelace, by the way?
No, in transition is what I'm saying
I
as
know,
an
I know, and I'm
example.
just joking. I'm saying,
Yeah, but yeah, you go back to so many
or
moments
maybe
you
one
say,
gel you might have had less.
yeah, so there are lots of things, right? But I was always behind, right? My swimming and cycling is not where I would like it to be. So every time I had to make up smaller, but you can't show up in a race and say you will do X in swim, Y in cycling, and Z in running. The conditions
Yeah,
are so different, right?
yeah,
So there've been a few things. Yeah, qualifying to Kona, I think that was good. Even my first HYROX, when we did our first event in HYROX again, it had taken so much and the team had worked so much hard to put up the race and things. Definitely, those were some moments where, you get emotional. And most times it's been sort of happy tears of sort of, reflecting back on the sort of hard work, if I can say that.
yeah. Organizing an event obviously is a team's activity. Any particular team member of your and a particular instance which remains with you, he did this, otherwise we could not have done this. Anything comes to your mind?
I think hard to single out. I think there'll
I
be
know, but just for sake of adding more.
look, my entire second line works extremely hard. The fact that I can sit down with you and do this podcast at whatever you want to call it, short notice, okay, notice, up to you. But even if I get a year back or even 6 months back, for me to be able to, take that time and do that and things is not. So it's reflective of how hard my team works. Lots of times I tell people, yes, I'm standing there talking about what we do and things, but there's no way without that. I mean, look, I'll tell people have to come. If you're not racing, come and see what happens one night before our Goa race, the night and the day, which happens, right? So, with respect to how hard the team works, there is so many things. I mean, there are times trucks don't get to point A and point B, and everybody just rolls up and does their work. So, once again, and every event the participant sees a lot of things behind the scene which has happened for us to put up that race. And everyone, whether it's I'm calling out my second line because that they've stepped up so much, allowing me to focus on much larger things and business and strategy and other things, but the entire team, the way they operate, making us put up a race, that is phenomenal. And all the people who come in, the 800 volunteers who show up, the 100 odd crew members who come up, the 25 to 30 people who have been traveling with us for every race, right? Right through from first race, people are there, people have been there. There's no way. Event management, there'll always be an incident or two which somebody has to pull up and do things. But there's way too many things happening behind the scene every event.
Got it. Any inspiring books that remain with you, which you'd like to quote, which you'd like to cite?
Not much of a reader, Hita. I mean, I used to read a bit in high school, after which fiction, basically what I was reading. And then afterwards, it was just, I thought I'll just wait for a few months and be made into a movie. A lot of fiction ones were just being made into movies. So it was much easier to watch movies than read some of them. So somewhere that habit went away. I've read a few things. Michael Jordan is my sort of, I keep going back from him. For me, for like my inspiration corner and things. I maybe read snippets. I've read a few things on that front, Jordan rules, and a few books like that. But I draw inspiration from stories of people. Like, I think when Olympics comes, a lot of stories comes out. I don't know, like a lot of people, you wouldn't watch fencing unless it was Olympic time. You wouldn't watch, even pistol or rifle or even winter sport and things like that if not Olympics is happening. And you listen to so many stories where how hard people have worked, what they've sort of given up to put out. So that stays with me. That's what. And then when I hear something, I go read a little more about it. I don't know. This goes way back. I think late 80s. There was Seoul Olympics. I think, and 82 or 92. I remember there was this pistol competition, and the Russian one used to. His mom always used to wonder. I hope I've got the story right, but his mom always used to wonder why his son was very hungry as soon as he came back from work.
Okay.
Right? He was using his lunch money to go to the firing range to get better.
Oh man.
Simple story.
Yeah.
But what the kind of things which he goes through, right? So those things stay with me. I know these were all collections of things, but this is what 36-year-old story in my head, which just popped in now. But it stays with me. So I draw inspiration from sports. I mean, basketball is the only sport I get to watch a lot more given the time I have. And even in that, there are so many stories of people coming through tough times and back from injuries or working hard to get better. And I mean, I know I talk about Michael Jordan, but I remember Kobe Bryant, who passed away. He's saying that if I'm working 2 times, if I'm practicing twice a day and someone else is doing once, or if I practice 3 times a day and someone's practicing once, I'm going to get eventually better at him much faster than what he's going to do. Right. And the amount of effort he put into that, it's just a quote and a few things, but that's for me. I should read a bit more. It's a good way to sort of, unwind, but there's enough happening around.
Any movies or OTT series which inspired you?
Not really. Again, movies, not many come to my mind. I'm more a snippet and a sort of, sound bites and small little things which capture me as opposed to a full one. But I'm sure there's a movie or thing, it's not coming to me, but there are some very good real story movies which comes to mind, which are good inspiring.
Any lessons from your father which remain with you? Anything that he used to say repeatedly which stuck with you, which you have embodied yourself?
I think 2 things. One is I owe him to get a good healthy habit, at least healthy habit in terms of waking up early and things. He never forced me, but it just sort of happened, right? And that has stuck with me. I remember once he's saying it takes a lot of time to gain the trust, but a very small incident can wipe it off. So I think that I remember, obviously, from an incident in school and things which we will not go into it now. But it's primarily, I goofed up on something and he said, staying true to those values and things was very important. I thank a lot for whatever I've sort of learned around and shaped it completely thanks to their upbringing. And somewhere a few years afterwards, I came to know he was actually a good runner way back in his school days. I never knew that until I sort of took up running, but I thank him for his whatever genes and things he passed on to me. But he struggled through a lot early days with respect to not having enough sort of support system around him to pursue his sport and thing. But he still did really well in sports, short distance races and things. So, but nice to hear back those stories and definitely a lot of learnings from that.
The number of times that you mentioned basketball and Michael Jordan, tempted to ask, are you going to get NBA and basketball into India in big time?
Well,
Is that your next goal after HYROX?
you can only go after some things, I think, and it's also way beyond reach. But yeah, I when I was in 6 months in the US, way back in 2005, I think I was in Phoenix. I think I went to every home game in Phoenix, right? So and recently also took my son for an NBA game last year. We went to US about a year and a half ago. So yeah, basketball. I mean, there's a lot of sport which I like watching, but nowadays it just turns out to be the Formula One I used to watch so much,
Hmm.
right through from free practice to qualifying to the race to post race to everything. Now it's 9 minutes of highlights on YouTube, making sure I don't know what the result is and I watch the YouTube as if it's a live 9 minute race. That's pretty much my thing. But basketball, I watch a fair amount whenever time permits.
If you were not what you are today, what would you have been?
I think I'll be working in Infosys. I definitely thought I'll retire in Infosys. I like the job. I mean, I still have very, very fond memories of it. Great team, a great set of managers, mentors who are still in touch with me. I thank them a lot whenever, not just for how they helped me during my Infosys days, but some of them are still give me a very kind and generous with their time whenever I need something. So I think I would have been, I would say, in IT and growing through. But yeah,
You retained your coding skills, or it's all rugged now?
no, I think I couldn't wear that many hats of a business owner, a coach, and a lead developer and things. But initially when we built the platform, I dabbled a bit and things.
Hmm.
I can still, from a high level solution and things, but not really as a developer. Can I still write some Java code or C++ code if those are languages are still very relevant? Maybe yes, but I think things have moved on.
Very interesting. It's been wonderful talking to you, Deepak. Any parting notes? Any final comments? Open to you.
First of all, thanks for the opportunity and great stuff what you're doing in trying to speak to people and continue to get a few other people to talk about themselves, which in turn makes sense. So once again, thank you so much for the opportunity. At my end, look, our goal was to create as many avenues as we can for people to take up a healthy habit or stay true to the healthy habit and the lifestyle they've chosen to live. So we're very happy where some of our events are there. A lot of thanks to the community, and without which there's no way the sport would have grown. Yeah, and whether people do Ironman or HYROX or anything or the marathons of the world, but if in turn it sort of inspires them to think about going tomorrow and starting an habit or walking 30 minutes tomorrow, which they've not done, or waking up early or eating right, sleeping well, I think, then mission what me and my team are after will be accomplished. So hopefully that's the takeaway when they see other people do things, even if they're not necessarily keen on the sport.
Great. A pleasure talking to you. Thanks a lot, Deepak, for your time, and all the best. You're doing a fantastic job, and keep rocking.
Thanks, Ethel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.